things. So around the major study, the first year, what we did was that we start to get the student to inquire about what music is, what kind of music are they playing, or those kind of thing. We will get actually some of the first year students to share with us that. The second part is how to communicate music to other people. And then, so after going out and see what other people think of music, then they come back. And since the second year is already becoming a bit harder than normal, that they have to practice a lot. Some of them already hurt their fingers, hurt their body. So we might have to be a bit more reflective of what musicians, how to practice, how to think of our own music. And then we're going to the next step, which is managing the concert in the real life, which we will hear later today. And then the third year, as usual, we're gonna have all this kind of thing, which is junior recital. And we would like to see in PGVIM the junior recital is almost something that is a negotiation between teachers, major teachers, and the student. That these are the quality that the student should achieve if they're going to graduate as someone who going to be called, they graduated from the Conservatory of Music. And the fourth year is supposed to be the year that they celebrate the whole experience that they learn in PGVIM or actually the world outside. They should be able to bring what they like into the projects. And you can see from earlier, even though we are kind of like categorized as being a classical music conservatory, Western classical music conservatory in Thailand, but you can see that we actually welcome music of other genres as well. We also welcome the music of jazz. We have our big bands. We have actually our sort of like Thai traditional project weeks that all the students can learn about our own traditional music. We have the Arts in Youth Ensemble, in which our young students can also participate in with other musicians from other countries in Asia. So these are something that we try to avoid, not making the first mistake in music, which is saying which music is bad or which music is good. So we are hoping to embrace all kind of music. And then at the end, we're hoping that in that fourth year, we have seen some of the saxophonists performing some of the jazz repertoire, or the trumpet players also integrated some of the big band in his own recital. So these are some kind of things that we would love to see at the end of the fourth year. And that's the overview. I'm going to be very quick. This is very unusual of me to have slide with mostly text. Normally, like all my students know, or my colleagues know, that always full pictures. But here, so these are some summary that I had of, from Dr. Apishai, who has summarized the ideas of hacking the repertoire. So this is the first semester that we always have, and we actually have one of the students with us. Boeing, may I ask you to join me just a little bit? So what did we do during the hacking of the repertoire? We showed this to Ajahn Thanisa as well. This is the first time you see this. What we did is we always limited by the ideas of all notations in the A4 form. I mean, in the old day, it must be kind of like a bit more fun to actually have music written in a different ways. So instead of having everything in A4 and you always see the phrase not really ending, but then we liberated it, and Boeing here, or Kansiri here, is kind of like reinterpreted your Chopin nocturnes. Can you say just a little bit? I'm sorry. So, what do you do with it?
Actually, I forgot all of. Oh, but first of all, I cut the piece into the two sections, and then so there is like two parts in the piece, in my opinion, and and then in the first it's like in the night, like as you can, and in the second part is like in the morning, and then there is a window, so I interpret this one is kind of like the decoration of the melodies here. Yeah. Oh, so so it's like the when So this one and this one is like
Theme
the
and
same.
variation, something like that.
Yeah.
Okay, so like the first idea that Chopin was kind of like a theme, and then the second part is a bit more like a variation things. Okay.
So there is a development of the first one here.
Okay, so this is another way of seeing the score. ขอบคุณค่ะ Boyin, thank you. Thank you for being on
I have
spot
a
with
little
us.
question, if I may.
Oh, okay.
So the name of the piece is Nocturne, right? But however, you manage to interpret it in a way that there's both the night and the day time, right? So what do you think, what kind of freedom do you have to interpret it in a way that's contrasting to maybe the original idea or like the way the music's been presented for 100 years, over 100 years? So yeah, can you talk a little bit about that?
Maybe it's like, it's from my experience. When actually I love to like sitting at night, like figure about a lot of things. And then I like to listen to some music and also this piece while I'm working on. And so I feel like, because the first one is kind of melancholic, yeah. And in the second part, I feel like it's kind of shining more. Yeah, so I interpret it as like the day and the night.
Thank you. So what I hear you saying is that it's the way you interpret it that makes the music yours, and your experience of the piece might not be the same as other people's experiences of the piece,
Yeah,
right?
because I think like everyone has their story and they can interpret in many ways. So this is my story.
Thank you.
Thank you
very much. Thank you. And maybe we come into the second examples. If we can have Warid now in PGM, when you were kind of like
the first year,
semester.
yes, the first semester.
Saying a little bit about this piece.
Okay, this is my work on the first semester. There's nothing complicated of my concept. As you see, thank you. Yeah, it's La Campanella, the demonic etudes. As you see, there's a light color and a dark color here. What I want to say in this piece is, when the technique and the difficulty go more harder, the color will go darker. Yeah, get more dark. Like as you see in the end, there's only red and black. That means this part is very hard to practice, and it almost killed my hand. Yes.
We just had one trill. And this is interesting. That you found that the most climax part of the piece is trill.
Yes.
And only one note, one single note.
Yes, so this drill is very hard to practice. I have tried practice this for, I'm not sure about this, maybe a few months, 1 or 2 months to
1 or 2 months.
yeah, to
just
make
to
it
get
perfect.
The trills
yeah,
right.
yeah.
Wow, amazing. Yeah. And you can really get this color, right? Why?
Yes.
Why bright color, not dark color?
Because it go on the very high octave. So I think the sounds make the feeling of bright. Yeah, not much dark.
I'm not sure this applies to all of your interpretation, but my observation is that I can think about the idea about density. So ความเข้มข้นนะนะคะ like when it's lighter and brighter. Well, not necessary, but I feel like when the color is brighter, and your experience is that the notes are more clear to play too, whereas like the high density, you have more density of ink here with the black and red, and the music score also looks pretty dense to me.
yeah.
So yeah, thank you. This is cool.
So this is ขอบคุณค่ะ Waris. Thank you very, very much. Thank you for reincarnate to your last life for us. So that's just one example, John. Kind of like one examples of how the students are looking at all these pieces. So instead of kind of looking at in an A4, but they actually start applying their own interpretation. But let's go back to the slide. They're not here only because they're doing it because of their own emotions or that interpretation. But prior to this, they have to learn emotions. They have to learn about they have to learn about how these sections within the music are working. And then because of this, then we can lead to this kind of interpretation. So we're hoping that through this process, they know a little bit about the musical structures, they know forms, they know sentence, they know the idea of motif and ideas. And then they have to learn about the story behind the music. Sometimes they decided to make a completely different interpretation to the piece, but that's at least they have to know it first, and then they can contradict it with a good reason. And then the last part, we actually encourage them. I mean, we had in 1 year that we had a scroll as long as the size of the rooms, because one of the percussionists decided he wanted to have it that way, not as a kind of thing. So that's we really encourage them to do. So any comments on it?
Yeah, I think the sounds and the visuals always come together for me. When I listen or when I watch concerts, it's always more exciting for me to see images at the same time as listening. Because I think for the human nature, we are capable of using different sensories at the same time. So when I hear and see, I think I can concentrate on both. So I think that's something that stimulates me when I consume music. And I think it's really great that the students start to interpret the repertoire with visual visual connection in their interpretation.
Since we are in this era, really kind of like spend a lot of time being influenced by visual, aren't we? You tend to kind of look all this at phone and then decided what you want to hear after you seeing it. So you're really heavily influenced by visual. So this might be another way that educators can bring in, isn't it, as a tools of learning music. Yeah. Yeah. The next part we would like to share is that that's the first semester. And then the second semester, I might have to invite Warid and Playing to join us again. What happened in our second semester in PGVIM? So we're always starting to always encourage them to learn how to communicate. They have to ask questions. We have a kind of criteria of 20 questions for them that they can ask about their own repertoire, like who's composing the piece, what kind of repertoire that happens at the same times, what kind of musical style it is, who are the contemporaries of those composers. There are lists of questions that can sort of like selected from, and from those, what did they do next? They start to have their own kind of like 5 minutes podcast or TV program in which they have to present about their ideas about music just to general audiences. They have to select kind of like sometimes the audience who are their parents, their friends, or anyone. And from those, then let me introduce Warid and Playing on stage with us. And maybe Playing, if you can start telling us a bit, like what did you do in your last semester?
Okay. In my video, it's my idea is how to make who watch my video is happy when they saw my video. Yes. Iก็เลยใช้ตัวการ์ตูนค่ะเป็นสื่อให้สื่อสารให้เขาเข้าใจว่าสิ่งที่เราพยายามจะอธิบาย คืออะไรใช่ค่ะ
Okay, so just a little bit of translation. I think she's very excited. She's now in her second year, and you know, as a Thai student, to be a second year having to speak English in front of public is not easy. So she's good that she's already starting. So you was actually thinking of wanting to make an audience feeling quite comfortable and happy to hear the music, and then that's why you decided to use a kind of the cartoon character to play with that. Maybe we can have a look at the examples just a little bit, Kakun Om. Okay, the other piece. Yeah.
วันนี้ดิฉันอยากจะพาทุกคนไปรู้จักกับนักประพันธ์เพลงชื่อดังในยุคคลาสสิกนะคะซึ่งหลายๆคนเนี่ยอาจจะเคยได้ยินบทเพลงของเขามาบ้างแล้วเพราะว่าบทเพลงของเขาเนี่ยถูกนำไปประกอบหนังภาพยนตร์การ์ตูนหรือว่าสื่อโฆษณาต่างๆมากมายค่ะอย่างเช่นบทเพลง Twinkle Twinkle Little Star นะคะที่ทุกคนเนี่ยต้องรู้จักกันเป็นอย่างดีค่ะก็ถูกนำไปประกอบในการ์ตูนเรื่อง Your Lie in April ด้วยนะคะ
Twinkle twinkle little star how I wonder what you are
และแน่นอนค่ะว่าทำนองที่น่ารักสุขสนแบบนี้เนี่ยจะเป็นผลงานของใครไปไม่ได้นอกจากวูฟกัง อามาดิอุส โมซาร์ทในแต่ละบทเพลงของเขาเนี่ยเขาจะแฝงความขี้เล่นเล็กๆของเขาเอาไว้ค่ะทำให้ผู้ฟังเนี่ยรับรู้ได้เลยค่ะว่าบทเพลงเนี้ยเป็นผลงานของใคร
โมซาร์ทเป็นชาวออสเตรียเกิดเมื่อวันที่ 27 มกราคม คริสตศักราช 1756 ณ กรุงซาลซ์เบิร์ก เมื่อโมซาร์ทอายุได้ 3 ขวบ พ่อของเขาก็ได้รับรู้ถึงความอัจฉริยะทางด้านดนตรีของโมซาร์ท หลังจากนั้นโมซาร์ทก็เริ่มแต่งเพลงและออกแสดงทั่วยุโรปจนมีชื่อเสียงโด่งดังตั้งแต่อายุยังน้อย
จนในปีคริสตศักราช 1775 เขาได้กลับมาอยู่ณกรุงซาลซ์เบิร์กอีกครั้งและได้เริ่มแต่งบทเพลง Violin Concerto No. 5 in A Major ซึ่งเป็นบทเพลงที่ดิฉันอยากจะนำเสนอให้ทุกคนได้รู้จักกันค่ะ
เนื่องจากบทเพลงนี้เป็นการประพันธ์ในรูปแบบของโซนาต้าฟอร์มดังนั้นจะอธิบายรายละเอียดคร่าวๆของโซนาต้าฟอร์มให้ฟังกันก่อนนะคะโซนาต้าฟอร์มเป็นบทเพลงที่มี3หรือ
That's part of the examples, but you can have a look later in the links that we will be posted. So, what do you think, Thanisa?
I think most everyone in this room can have some connection to cartoons, right? Growing up, we all watch, whether it be anime or cartoons or animated movies. I think everybody can relate to that. And I think to use cartoon as a tool to communicate our music with the audience is a really powerful way to engage the audience.
So that's as you say, everybody does. Sadly, I can't draw, and so you're doing a really great job to me. That's wonderful. Can we hear from Maretka? So what is your interpretation when you have to communicate your music? So
in my pieces and my work on it, this is my final project in the subject contextual study too. At the beginning, I have planned and draft a storyboard for my video. Everything went really well until COVID-19 showing up in Thailand and messed up on my plan. Yeah. At first, I would like to analyze this piece as a content for my video, but I got an idea during the quarantine. Why don't I make it simple? Honestly, I'm the one of those people who don't like to sit and listen to the academic lectures. Yeah, it's boring, isn't it? You know, but I prefer to watch something and learn from something that's pretty casual like YouTube or movies or cartoons. So I decided to burn up all of my previous script. Yeah, and wrote a new one and present like a YouTuber. Just like I said, my idea is how to make my video not boring and somewhat concise the content, add some humor, and speak a little bit formal because it might affect my grades. Yeah, let's see how it's. Yeah. ผมเชื่อว่านักเปียโนทุกคนเนี่ยต้องรู้จักและก็เคยได้ยินชื่อของนักประพันธ์เพลงชาวโปแลนด์คนนี้อยู่แล้วนะครับเฟเดริก โชแปงเนี่ยมีชีวิตอยู่ในช่วงปีคริสตศักราช 1810 ถึงปีคริสตศักราช 1849 ซึ่งก็คือเป็นช่วงยุคโรแมนติกเขามีผลงานการประพันธ์เพลงไว้มากมายครับและแน่นอนรวมถึงเพลงเต้นรำรูปแบบหนึ่งที่อยู่ในอัตราจังหวะ 3/4 และมีถิ่นกำเนิดมาจากประเทศออสเตรียใช่แล้วครับมันคือเพลงวอลซ์โชแปงเนี่ยได้แต่งเพลงวอลซ์ไว้ราวๆกับ30 เบอร์ทีนี้ที่ผมจะพูดถึงเนี่ยมันคือวอลซ์เบอร์1วอลซ์เบอร์1นะของโชแปงหรือถ้าให้เข้าใจง่ายกว่านั้นเนี่ยก็คือวอลซ์เบอร์แรกสุดที่โชแปงแต่งขึ้นนะครับมันถูกตีพิมพ์ออกมาในเดือนมิถุนายนปีคริสตศักราช 1834 นะครับก่อนจะถูกมอบให้กับลอร่า ฮัสฟอร์ดหญิงสาวที่เขาตกหลุมรักโดยวอลซ์เบอร์นี้เนี่ยเป็นวอลซ์ที่มีขนาดใหญ่และมีท่วงทำนองหลักที่ค่อนข้างจะโดดเด่นชัดเจนเป็นเอกลักษณ์นะครับทำให้มันได้ถูกนำมาเรียบเรียงใหม่ในรูปแบบต่างๆเช่นกีตาร์โซโล่สตริงควินเต็ตอีกทั้งมันยังถูกนำไปใส่ในภาพยนตร์หรือการ์ตูนบางเรื่องอีกด้วยเช่นต่อไปจะขอพูดถึงอารมณ์เพลงและคาแรคเตอร์ของมันในแต่ละช่วงนะครับเดี๋ยวเราเปลี่ยนมุมกล้องกันหน่อยดีกว่าคือเพลงนี้เนี่ยมันจะมีการแบ่งออกเป็นเซกชันย่อยๆที่ให้อารมณ์แตกต่างกันนะครับโดยเราจะเริ่มจากการย้ำตัว B flat เป็น introduction ของเพลงก่อนตรงนี้เนี่ยเราต้องเล่นให้เหมือนกับว่ามันดูน่าสนใจมากๆเพราะมันเป็นเหมือนการเชิญชวนให้คนมาเต้นนะครับแล้วจึงเริ่มในห้องที่ 5 ซึ่งเป็นโมทีฟหลักของเพลงโดยจะเห็นได้ว่ามันให้ความรู้สึกสนุกสนานตลอดช่วงทำนอง
Thank you very much. That's really nice. What do you think, Hassan?
Yeah, I think what you said in the beginning was really honest, and I can relate to that a lot, that you don't want music to be boring. And that's a challenge that I think a lot of us face today when we say we play classical music. We are a little bit, feel a little at risk or insecure about whether people will like our music or not. And I think that's a challenge that's so valid. And we all have to find solutions to how to not make our music boring. It's not boring music. I love classical music, you know, but there's a stereotype, unfortunately, and we have to fight that stereotype to make it interesting. So I think this is a really great way to tell stories about the music, and, you know, people can understand words. So when you use words to describe music, then people can understand it. That's good.
And what interesting to me is also that you actually took reference from other musical manifestation. For example, the guitar solo, the arrangement into the guitar solo, or into a string quartet, or more importantly, the cartoon. That's always the one that helped people to kind of like the knocking door and then open the doors into the classical music. So that's really amazing. Look, you can think of that. So you put that in front, and then you can start kind of like dragging them in bits by bits. Wonderful. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. And maybe the next part that we would like to share with you is what happened in the second year. So this is when we start talking about the ideas of how they can be a bit more of the kind of reflective as musicians. And we find like during our maybe fourth generation of our students to see that these are becoming a kind of like common challenges that the second year students are having. And we noted down to 3 different things. And the first thing is the idea of body and mind. Some of them starting to have a little bit of blockage, they start to have all these kind of injuries with their bodies because of the reasons of the practicing. And sometimes they find like they lose motivation and they will want to get back into the motivation of playing music again. So that's the first thing. And the second thing is the idea of the practice strategy. How can you use your 8 hours or 2 hours at the most maximum benefit? And the last thing is the idea of interpretation. Some of them starting to feel like maybe my teacher's interpretation is not enough. It's not enough. I wanted to have my own interpretation. And some of them are unsure about what they can do with that. So these are some of the how do you call it, examples of what we did. So this is one of the things that I can actually ask some of them who are here with us. She's now in her 4th year, but this is what happened to her in her 2nd year. So you can see somebody exploring the ideas of Alexander technique here. And you can see from the camera here that like it's the idea of Alexander technique, and they actually make their own manual of their own bodies and how they can fix the problem with their own performance postures and everything. And somebody did a kind of like a manual for warming up as a singer, and he's kind of like doing how to post how to kind of like post what to do with the postures, what not to drink, what not to eat, those kind of things. So this is a little kind of like manual for them. And maybe, oh, somebody did something about my piano and my body and me. And this is all about postures. So these are this kind of thing that we actually ask them to find their own guideline to how to maintain being a musician in the future. And maybe we can hear a little bit. Hong Shanita, you might be able to explain this to us yourself. Would you like to join us a little bit? So her is called Alexander Technique Guidebook, recommended especially for violists.
So I remember I doing this manual book since like 2nd years, and so I remember that Ajahn Anothai was divided into the 3 groups, and I into the body and mind group. So my problem is due to my like physical, like my hand physical is so small, especially for like when you play the viola. So I often have an injuries. It's kind of hard to practice like a long time, like long durations. And I consult a lot with my major teacher, and then come this manual. So inside, so the cover and back cover is like here's okay. So here's a quote from Matthias Alexander, so who's setting the Alexander technique. And for the back cover, it's like a quote from a famous musician, so as Leonard Bernstein, Schumann, or like Charlie Chaplin. It's a quote about music. So when you like burn out or something while you play music, so you can read a quote to get on fires. So like since I was in 1st year, I have a problem with my postures, such as elbow, shoulders, or maybe like a body postures, which didn't support the viola playing. So I trying to compare what is a poor postures and what is a good posture, like, and how to look at yourself in the mirror and tell that this is a poor. Because if we doesn't know, like if we don't know the bad one, how suppose we know the good one? So it's have a head, neck, and spine, which is like, this is for the wrong positions. And I wrote my problem that for the shoulders, it's have a space between my shoulders and my chest. So it's make kind of tense, and it's also hurt the backbone. So it's all related. And yeah. And this is hand, especially for like the one who have a small hand like me, and it's not it feels harder for a person who have like a big structures of their bodies. And yeah, and I talk about the balance and the relax of the thumbs.
Yeah. So it means that the lesson stays. I'm glad to hear this. She can still remember all this kind of thing. That's good. Yeah.
But I didn't do this by myself. Like I working with my major teacher.
Mm.
So his concept for doing a good posture is like, if you play music and you hurt yourself, that is not a good posture. Playing music need to be relaxed. Like, and it can, and when you tense, your music also tense. But when you relax, your music will be relaxed. So this is what he's
philosophy
always
for
said
that.
to me.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you
I
very
think
much.
the reflective approach is very valuable in understanding your own practice strategies as a musician, because a lot of times you feel like you're expected to spend this number of hours in the practice room, but you're not told what you want, what you have to think about, or what works for you. Like I think that's the most important. You have to do what works for you, not what's expected of you. So I think it's really important that you work with yourself. And I think these guidebooks, and well done on your book, is a great tool for students to learn as musicians and practicing their own in music in the practice room. So great.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much, Sanita. And we will have you back in maybe half an hour later. So stay put. And another approach that, so these are some of the things that we share with the students. And if we're not talking about the body and mind, what do we do about the ideas of practice? We actually ask the student to write their own etude. So they always have, like, when we did a little bit of kind of survey questions when they arrive in the first year, and we always ask, like, when your major teacher give you an etude, how many of you felt that they really kind of was written for your problem? And often, isn't it, like as a pianist, that we found like some of them are really good for practicing some part of the body that they really not kind of, we are not really mastering it. But sometimes you felt at this, if someone can really write an etude, tailor-made etude for me, that would be really wonderful, isn't it? And this is one of the reasons why we have all this kind of exercise, that they wrote their own etudes so that they can really focus on certain problems that they wanted to fix. And this is always taken from the passage in the repertoire. So studying from the repertoire and took out a passage that they felt that they have a bit more kind of like concerns, and then turn them into an exercise that they can really use. I hope you guys were using it. And then
this is really cool. And it's like a mini composition for you too. And you learn the sounds and harmony through this project too.
Exactly, and especially with kind of like a singleized solo instrument, it's very often that it's a bit more difficult to imagine the harmonies. When they have to do this, then they have to kind of like be more aware of the harmony that lies below in some way. So, and the last part is the idea of interpretations. So this we actually have from Pifa, Fengfa, that she actually did I'm quite amazed to see how many music students are actually kind of like really good at drawing. I'm feeling ashamed a little bit. And
I'm impressed too.
as well. And she did a kind of like a stories, and it's always a story, but told in a kind of animation like. And sometimes we don't have a major in composition, but what we do is that we felt that even as a performer, if you're looking back, we just had this discussion with the first year last week, that when you talk about prodigy, a music prodigy, whom they were thinking about, and they always came to the name Mozart and all these young people who actually categorize as composers, performers, those kind of things. So there's no boundary somehow of someone being segmented as a composers, or you only perform only. So we were trying to getting back to the Renaissance in music somehow. And these are just a kind of like starting point that we were trying. So we had one of the students doing a piano piece, but he couldn't catch in, one of our senior, and he couldn't get his head through the color of the piece. So what we did is that we actually make the orchestrations of that piece. And after that, he can start hearing all these kind of like harmony within the piece. And this is another guy who actually helped us directed performance yesterday, the Weather Riots with the third year, and at that time he was in the second year. What he did actually the piece for solo horn by Malcolm Arnold, but he couldn't hear the accompaniment, he couldn't hear the harmony. So what we did is that he actually wrote the piano accompaniment part for the solo horn part, and it became really a piece that people can play, and then he can have his own accompaniment in his mind. So this kind of like I said, is a part of the process of being of composing, isn't it? You don't need to call yourself, he doesn't need to call himself composers, but he's a performer who's able to express music by writing.
Yeah, if you think about it, in the non-music world, it's really hard to get two people to work together and produce exactly the work that you expect out of them. So I think for this student to write his own accompaniment part, I think that opens up a lot of possibilities. You have enough guidelines from the melody, and then you can create something that adds to that. So I think it's a good balance between having a guideline and creating your own.
And go further even, isn't it? Like this morning we had from Yongseto Conservatory music sessions that there's one pianist, Jonathan, and what he did is that he sort of like rearranged the accompaniment part for Swan, the Swan, and he actually made almost like a whole new piece out of it. So there's a lot of things you can do with the existing repertoire, isn't it? Right? And so that's because it's already a bit too far. So we would go next, but I'm gonna touch on it very quickly. So it's the idea of entrepreneurship, which we actually have the crew of the former second years with us, and they're gonna launch onto that now. And then after that, I'm just finishing here. The last part is the idea of recitals on the go, which we will have another 4 students presenting about it. So maybe let me give this stage to our second year here, the third year here. Okay, and we can move just a little bit to that corner.
Sounds good.
The stage are yours. So you can start setting up. You can start setting up that. So what you heard before is like year 1 to year 1 and year 2, the first 4 semesters. And now we're going to see a student of the 5th generation, and these are the projects that they did this semester. So maybe they're going to do part of it in Thai, part of it in English. So let's hear from them.
สวัสดีครับพวกเรามาจากโปรเจกต์ MLB นะครับ Music Life Balance ครับเป็นส่วนหนึ่งในวิชา Recital Project ในชั้นปีที่2ครับเทอมที่2ก็คือ Recital 4
from the Music Life Balance project, and this is part of the second year, 4th semester's subject, which is called Recital Projects, or now called Contextual Studies.
ครับโปรเจกต์ของเรานะครับแบบทำไมถึงชื่อ Music Life Balance นะครับเรามีคำตอบให้ครับจากฟ้าครับ
Why Music Life Balance?
So our main goal is to deliver music to the different kind of people. And so we believe that music plays some roles in our life. Even we are different kind of people. Yeah, we are actually listening to the music. Okay, so we have to let people see that music has some role in their life too, which is lead us to the next concept is diversity. We didn't see much perception of diversity of music much, but if you're looking in the bigger picture, we might see that different people might have interest, expression, and experience in different kind of music. So we have to brainstorm, which find out that which song we're gonna play. Except for classical music, we have to find out which ability our members have. We might find out that some of our members have interest in pop music, jazz, or Thai songs, or even some members have interest in composition. So the music life balance is the concept of how music represents life and how life represents music itself, which is life and music can play the roles together. Some repertoire and some songs is from the expression of the composers, but we as musician or listener might have experience with music as well. Thank you.
That's very interesting because we have composers and we're listeners of those composers, but then now we're also performers and we also have our own listeners. So there's always a balance on like what the composers want or wanted, what we want, what we like as musicians, and what the audience would want to hear. I think that's always a balance. I think now you also have the liberty of playing what you're passionate about. So yeah, it's always a balance, right? You want to play something that the audience likes, but at the same time, you want to be enjoying it at the same time too, right?
As a musician in this century, which is 21st century, and technology has many effects to our lives, not only by playing music or listening to music, but we have to do something new and like blend our life to technology also. In this century, I think people can't buy CD or like tape for listening to music. We have YouTube, we have Spotify, or we have anything else, whatever. So we have to blend our music into technology, which can connect to people not only in Thailand but all around the world.
Yeah, that's a great point about technology, especially during the COVID-19 pandemic. People use technology more than ever. Music consumption has probably surged by 200, 300%. So yeah, it's so important that you incorporate the use of technology into your work.
Else to add to that? So basically, just to summarize, so you wanted to find between you guys, like how many people in your classes? 29, 30 students in the class, and you were trying to find a balance between you guys, like what kind of music you like, how do you kind of tell the stories of the music with other things in your life as well, and how do you kind of like find the balance point between being composers, performers, and at the same time an audience, right? And maybe you might want to talk a little bit about how you actually presented it.
ครับขออนุญาตเป็นภาษาไทยนะครับ ก็คือการทำงานของพวกเราเนี่ยก็คือเริ่มจากพวกเราในรุ่นจะมีประมาณ30กว่าคนใช่ไหมครับแล้วก็จะแต่ละคนจะมีวิชาหนึ่งที่เป็นวิชา chamber music ครับแล้วเราจะนำ chamber music เนี่ยมาแสดงใน live performance ครับ
What he said is that instead of just doing the kind of solo pieces, but because they're working as a group together, so what they did is that they selected a piece from the chamber music group, and this is something that is quite different from the normal ways that we always separate and do our solo piece, but because of playing together and present the same piece together, so that's why they choose to use a piece from chamber music classes.
ครับแล้วก็จากตอนแรกเลยนะครับเราทำการประชุมกันแล้วก็หาสถานที่ว่าเราจะสามารถเล่น Chamber Music เนี่ยเราจะทำยังไงให้อย่างที่บอกว่าชื่อโปรเจกต์คือ Music Live Balance ใช่ไหมครับเราจะนำดนตรีไปหาผู้คนยังไงให้ทั่วถึงแล้วก็สามารถแบบพาดนตรีไปให้เขาถึงที่ได้เนี่ย
because of the COVID situation, at first we actually decided on performing on certain venue outside of the PGVIM, but because of the situation, that's why they have to rethink what to do in order to deliver the music they wanted.
ครับแล้วเราก็หาสถานที่ได้ก็คือมิวเซียมสยามนะครับมิวเซียมสยามเพราะว่าเราอยากให้ดนตรีเนี่ยเกิดความแปลกใหม่ก็คือเราจะไปเล่นในพิพิธภัณฑ์แล้วก็ตามจุดต่างๆในพิพิธภัณฑ์เมื่อคนเดินไปตามจุดต่างๆก็จะได้ยินเสียงดนตรีจาก Chamber Music จากพวกเราครับ
The pictures that you saw on the screen now, this is the first venue they were thinking of performing. This is Museum Siam. For those who might have kind of visited Bangkok before, they actually have rooms separated into different themes, telling the story, history of Thailand and the international, like different countries that we will in contact with during the past, and they thought that this could be kind of theme that they can work through and they can showcase music of different cultures there, so that people can also have access to the story and also have access to the music as well. So I'll pass it back to you.
ครับแล้วต่อมานะครับเมื่อเกิดสถานการณ์โควิดนะครับการเล่นดนตรีสดก็เป็นไปไม่ได้นะครับเราก็เลยหาหนทางใหม่ที่จะสามารถนำเสนอดนตรีให้กับผู้คนได้อย่างเข้าถึงง่ายเหมือนเดิมโดยการที่เราทำเป็น Music Collection นะครับ Online Music Collection
So this is a new plan. There are what they call solutions to. They at first it's already kind of like a music collections in some way, and it's a kind of exhibition plus the music showcases. So this is we're not changing the material, right? But we only changed the formats of how we presented it, and they quite like it's actually quite a long discussion when whether we call it music database, music page, music something, and then end up with the ideas of online music collections. And at least they started with the idea of this is our collection that we wanted to share with the world.
เมื่อเราเลือกทำ Music Collection แล้วเนี่ยหน้าที่ของเพื่อนๆแต่ละคนก็คือทุกคนจะมีหน้าที่ที่แตกต่างกันไปนะครับไม่ได้เล่นแต่ดนตรีเหมือน Live Performance ทุกคนก็จะเพิ่มหน้าที่ขึ้นมาก็ต้องมีฝ่ายต่างๆอย่างนี่ก็เป็น leader ของแต่ละฝ่าย
But because they start to have to kind of produce their own presentations with the whole package, so that's why they're not only playing the part in their own chamber music group, but also they have to divide it into different sections that they have to work. And you can see these are the leaders of each duties group.
ครับเมื่อสถานการณ์เปลี่ยนไปก็อยากให้ทุกคนได้เห็นว่าการทำงานของแต่ละฝ่ายแบบมันละเอียดอ่อนแค่ไหนแล้วก็ต้องจริงจังกับงานนี้แค่ไหน
He would like to share that it's not just what kind of job this group has to do, but actually what kind of thing that you have to pay attention to something that they have learned from this kind of thing. And it's not just really to pay attention, but really to keep wholehearted into making this possible, because or else we wouldn't have the result we want. Maybe?
จากฝ่าย documentary
Okay, so this is the first part.
Yes, I'm a leader of documentary, and our job is finding a program node. We have to work with every people in our team. So we divided our team into 3 parts. The first one is research, and the second one is checking, and the third one is what's up research translator. Yes. Yes, we got a program node from our friends, and we have to like check it every single like alphabet for like the very right information for it. And then if something miss or over, so we have to cut or add something, so we give it to research part, so they're gonna find some information about that piece and add it and send into translator to translate the Thai into English. And another important part for us is translate and do the subtitle. In every video, you will see the English subtitle. Yeah, that's our main job, and it take a lot of time for it. Yeah, and a lot of my brain. Yeah.
So this is actually not something that we expected them to do, but because of the standard, they already have higher standard than us. So that's good.
As we want to share it into foreigner, which it's not the main target, but we want to share to them. Yeah.
It's a good that the awareness is there.
Yeah, I mean, the world is big and technology allows the world to see our work. So might as well make it understandable in different languages. Well, just one language, but a lot of people in the world understand English. So I think it's useful to have English as a second backup language too.
ต่อไปเราอยากรู้ว่าการทำงานของทีมสเตจเนี่ยจากการทำงานในไลฟ์เพอร์ฟอร์แมนซ์ที่ยกเข้ายกออกอะไรอย่างนี้แบบจะมีอะไรที่มากกว่านั้นหรือเปล่าหรือว่าหลังจากโควิดแล้วเนี่ยเรามีการเปลี่ยนแปลงหน้าที่ยังไงเราต้องเตรียมการอัดเสียงหรือเปล่าต้องแพลนยังไงมีสเตจแพลนหรือว่าอะไรยังไงครับพี่กด
So the next part is the performance, the recording session part. And we have someone from the stage management. He's also a very accomplished young tuba player, but this time he's going to work as a stage manager for us. So please.
ครับก็ในส่วนของสเตจนะครับเนื่องในที่มีทำให้เรามีเวลาแค่3 วันเท่านั้นที่จะจัดการอัดเสียงอัดภาพต่าง
Because you are the stage manager, so that's why you have the challenge with the microphone. Continue. Continue.
ครับโดยอันดับแรกเราต้องลิสต์รายการทั้งหมดก่อนนะครับว่าเราเนี่ยสามารถเช็คได้ว่าเรามีทั้งหมดกี่เพลงนะฮะมีจำนวนนักดนตรีทั้งหมดเท่าไหร่มีอะไรบ้างที่ต้องใช้ในแต่ละวันครับเพื่อที่จะจัดตารางออกมาให้รวดเร็วและสะดวกที่สุดในทั้งหมดใน3 วันครับ
Really, it involves a lot of planning, isn't it? Just to make sure who's going to come at what time, and especially with the COVID time, when we have limited numbers of how many musicians we can have per day. So it was a really kind of big job, 3 hours job that we have to calculate. And so these are kind of little minor things that you won't notice it if it's working, but if it doesn't work, then people it's a big kind of effect that it can be. So that's why he was kind of like doing to make sure that there's less as possible errors.
เมื่อเราได้ลิสต์ทั้งหมดมาแล้วนะครับเราก็จะมาจัดเป็นตารางว่าในแต่ละวันเนี่ยเราสามารถจะจัดคนทั้งหมดให้อยู่ในวันนั้นได้อย่างไรครับโดยเราจะอ้างอิงกับจำนวนเพลงและจำนวนคนว่า1 คนเนี่ยเล่นกี่วงเล่นกี่เพลงแล้วก็จะมาจัดดูว่าในแต่ละเพลงมีเวลาเท่าไหร่จะให้สามารถให้เขาซ้อมในเวลาเท่าไหร่ได้ครับ
And it's not only the recording time, but it's also managing the rehearsal part as well. And especially when one player is always playing more than just one ensemble, and you can see how these algorithm can work. So that's his job. Wonderful. Thank you.
ครับต่อไปสิ่งที่น่าสนใจอีกฝ่ายหนึ่งเลยก็คือของพลอยนะครับที่ก่อนหน้านี้เป็นฝ่ายมีเดียเป็นฝ่ายภาพอะไรหลายๆอย่างแต่ว่าหลังจากสถานการณ์โควิดเนี่ยเขามีงานอะไรที่ต้องทำอีกมากมายเลยไม่ว่าจะเป็นการตัดต่อการอะไรหรือว่าการรวมคลิปของเพื่อนๆเขามีวิธีการทำงานยังไงครับ
recording after recording the post-production part of it คุณพลอยค่ะ
ก็ตอนก่อนที่จะมีโควิดนะคะก็ได้รับหน้าที่ได้รับมอบหมายให้อยู่ฝ่ายมีเดียก็จะดูเรื่องรูปภาพต่างๆตอนแรกก็จะเป็นช่างภาพให้เพื่อนๆแต่ว่าเนื่องจากมีโควิดมาก็ยังอยู่ในฝ่ายมีเดียเหมือนเดิมแต่ว่าก็จะอยู่เรื่องคุมโทนรูปภาพให้เพื่อนๆแล้วก็มีการตัดต่อทำแอนิเมชันเล็กๆหรือว่าก็จะมีเพื่อนในทีมที่ทำเพลงประกอบให้กับทีเซอร์ของเพจเราค่ะ แล้วก็หน้าที่ใหม่ที่ได้รับมาก็จะเป็นหน้าที่ที่ท้าทายก็คือการเป็นสคริปต์เรคคอร์ดดิ้งค่ะซึ่งเป็นหน้าที่ที่ไม่เคยทำก็ต้องจัดภาพจัดกล้องจัดไฟแล้วก็ดูแสงให้เพื่อนๆอะไรแบบนี้ค่ะ
She was saying that, like, as you can see, that a lot of the logo itself, the sound, so every tiny details within the production itself, like the logo, the design, the fonts, and every single media visual part of this project has been done by her team. And this also includes the production itself, like, for example, the introductory video, the teasers, the jingles, and also on the production day when each of the student has to do explanations, she has to take a job of a director of productions as well. So like which angle of the camera, when to enter, when to speak, and how to edit it together. So that was that team.
ครับต่อไปเป็นการทำงานของฟ้านะครับ ฟ้าจะเป็นcoordinator จะทำงานระหว่างเว็บไซต์ของโปรเจกต์กับ Facebook นะครับ เป็นคอยรวมคอนเทนต์ต่างๆเรื่องน่าสนใจต่างๆที่จะมาเล่าแล้วก็รวบรวมว่าจะปล่อยวันไหนอะไรยังไงครับอยากให้ฟ้าช่วยเล่า
Okay, first of all, I'm coordinator of graphic design, website, and content manager teams, which we have our admin here. Okay, first we gather our teams into one group to like have some meetings and summary of how we work. So this is our website here. Okay. Our website is another platform to gather our works into one place. This is อันนี้เปิดได้ไหม Okay. This is one of our works from MLB members. So yeah, we have our members' biography and official websites, which will use the website creation of wix.com. Introduced by
But some sponsors, Wix. Thank you.
Yeah. And this is one of our members' personal website, which is very interesting. Yeah, and this is QR code to our website. If you're interested, please.
And there's another thing that Fa and Dua mentioned at the beginning, that it's not only just putting things on website, but it's actually how to manage it and deliver it to the world. So there's a kind of like coordination between the website team, the content creator team, and also the PR team. What do you do with the calendar and everything?
So as a content manager, I work with that guy over there.
Oh, sure.
Okay. So what we do is that we have to discuss about what we have to share to the people who are gonna engage with our Facebook page. So we decided to have content like 3 days per week in May. And then so we have the content on Tuesday and Friday and also the Sunday. And on the Sunday content is quite very important to our MLB members because it's all about our favorite songs. So it's our song of the week and it represents us as MLB. And in June, so we try to post about the members and also the special guests and also a bit of the jigsaw puzzle of our poster to make more people to come in our page. Yeah. And so finally it's our like performing month. Yeah, and then it's our schedule. Like the whole month, we are have 21 piece to perform. So each piece we have our keywords in each one to define us as MLB, and it's like our dictionary of music life balance. Yeah.
So this is really. What do you think, Thanisa?
Overall, I really admire their teamwork. When I was a college student, I could not have imagined having different distinct roles that you assign each other. And it seems like you're all leaders of your own teams, or you're very independent independent thinkers too. So I think that's really great, and that that goes along with the idea of entrepreneurship. That it's important for music these days that you have an entrepreneurial mindset, and it seems like all of you have it and are practicing it already. So that's great. Now I have a little question. So with COVID, how when you had to stay home, how did that affect your teamwork? What were the downsides and upsides? Well, let's start with upsides. Upsides and downsides of working from home but still in a team.
Yes, we have to like conference in the Zoom meeting, like always, every week with Ajahn Tong.
I'm sorry.
Yes, we always wondering that this week we have to like conference again, conference again. And yeah, we have to divide our team into this, which is ours. And yeah, we have to work together in a chat, or we have to trust. The one thing of this work that I've got is trust. I have to trust my team. I have to trust my friends. And we have to trust each other very much. And so sometimes work, the result is not satisfactory, but we have to admit it. So that's what I've learned from this part. Yeah.
That's awesome. I agree. Trust is so important, and it takes time to build trust too, right? It's what you bring that gives you trust. So I'm sure all of you brought great things into the project, so you get trust back. You can work together in team. So yeah, working from home, how is that for you?
Okay, so it's a bit hard to communicate actually, because the network and we are in different place. So but also like the same as So said, that we have learned a lot of things to that we have been working out together, and we work as a team. So I think like the things that we have gained is our experience in everything that we have done, like not just only performing, but it's also like in the other things that we have to do in our society. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, I have a little bit to add to that, sorry. But I think when you're working from home and work is so much on social media now, then you kind of bring music to your social life overall. Music doesn't just happen in your institute, but it's like, it's what you share on Facebook, and your Facebook, on Facebook, you don't just have your college friends, right? You have everybody see it there. So I think when you work from home, maybe music becomes a part of your life more than ever before, because it didn't just happen in the music space, but it happens in your regular life too. Would you agree to that?
Well, first of all, yes, music becomes our life, totally our life. In every like our part of our quarantine, we have to live with music, which is major, studio class, or even this project.
Yeah, you live with it, really.
Yeah, we lived with it. And it's made me recognize myself that I truly love music. Did I bored it, or did I didn't like it? But actually, yes, I totally trust myself that I love it. Yeah, yeah, we have to live with music during our quarantine, and yeah, so that I can answer myself about it.
Yeah, and it's music of your choice too. So you can turn it on or you can play anything, anytime. Nobody's listening, so it's just you. Maybe or people can be listening too, right? You can live stream or something.
Yeah. And maybe just another thing I'd like to add as kind of like a teacher's role. When you ask about what happened, like what taught me lesson that I learned about COVID, like Adeline Wong said this morning in the YST sessions, that sometimes the teacher realized that there's nothing you can do and you have to trust your student. And this is so hard being a teacher, like that you always think that it's the other way around, but it's actually sometimes you have to trust them that they can really run the whole project. And this is something that I learned this time, that I can really trust you guys and that you will come up with even better than idea than I have, like the jigsaw. There was one thing, or the way they kind of like connect emotions to each day and how they really kind of like demonstrate the ideas of music, the music in their lives, and they can express it so well using their own medium that they felt that is necessary. So sometimes you just have to trust them, and it's rewarding. Thank you, you guys.
ครับจริงๆเราอยากนำเสนออีกอย่างหนึ่งก็คือโลโก้กับโปสเตอร์ของเรานะครับที่เราตั้งใจมากๆทำด้วยกันมา
Really would like to explain a little bit about the logo. Yeah.
Okay, let's play the intro.
ครับอันนี้เป็นอินโทรสั้นๆนะครับแบบอาจจะดูแค่ไม่กี่วินาทีแต่ว่าพลอยเนี่ยได้ลองทำอินโทรนี้แบบภายในเวลาแบบ1 คืน 2 คืนแบบมีความชาเลนจ์ยังไงบ้างครับพลอย
ก็หลังจาก
So
คุย
this
กับ
was done within a night, right?
ก็อาจารย์ได้ให้ลองทำแอนิเมชันเพื่อเป็นทีเซอร์ให้เพื่อนๆก็เลยคิดว่าการที่เราเขียนเป็น MLB Music Life Balance แล้วก็มารวมกันเป็นส่วนหนึ่งของโลโก้น่าจะโอเคแล้วก็ได้รับความช่วยเหลือจากเพื่อนในทีมก็คืออู๋ค่ะอู๋ก็ทำเพลงออกมาให้ก็เป็นแบ็คกราวด์ทีเซอร์ค่ะสิ่งที่ยากก็คือส่วนตัวไม่เคยทำแอนิเมชันอะไรแบบนี้มาก่อนก็ยากแต่ว่าพอทำเสร็จแล้วก็ได้รับผลตอบรับค่อนข้างดีเกี่ยวกับทีเซอร์ค่ะ
ก็จะเห็นได้ว่าแบบแต่ละคนก็มีหน้าที่อะไรใหม่ๆที่ทำขึ้นมาแตกต่างกัน
She actually did it like in 24 hours. What program were you using? I think Adobe.
I use Procreate on iPad.
Great. And at first I asked her whether, sorry, it's my fault again. I asked her whether she's learned how to do animation before. She said no. And I said, yes, you will in 24 hours. And then she really kind of like did that. So great job. And I hope that it's also a collaboration between you and our composers here, our Kun U, we should actually also do so many different variations of works, a choice of works, and we all decided together. So wonderful job. So he's also the producers of the first group as well, the first rapper group. So that's it. Anything else you'd like to add?
จริงๆเราอยากให้เห็นโพสต์ใน Facebook ครับว่าเป็นตัวอย่างว่าเรามีการเตรียมโพสต์ยังไงเรามีการใช้พจนานุกรมของ MLB ของเราการตีความของเราเพื่อให้เห็นความแตกต่างของแต่ละคนใช่ไหมครับแต่ละโพสต์เนี่ยก็จะได้นำคำเหล่านั้นไปเป็นคอนเทนต์ในโพสต์ใช่ไหมครับ
So little writing in the post, you can already see the post here, that they explain about the emotions that they sort of like interpreted in their own meaning, that they have something like which is called MLB dictionary, right? And anything to add, Boeing?
So in each post, we define our words, like the keywords, as the dictionary of MLB. And
Okay, first of all, Ajahn Tom asks us how we define MLB, our own way to define music-life balance. So we got so many words and we divide them and gather them into each pieces or each songs. So to make our own dictionary, our MLB's dictionary.
Okay, so that's one way of connecting to the audience, right? Yes. So any other comments you'd like to add? Because I think they know they have some performance they wanted to share with us today. Anything to add just before that?
Just a quick question. Did you find yourself more responsible when you're working at home because there's nobody to be like, hey, where's my work? Give me, like, I need to edit your work today or something like that. So did you find yourself more responsible when you're working at your own pace, but you're still meeting deadlines?
For my opinion, yes, I actually have something to do in my home, and sometimes I have to do subtitle from like midnight to 2 a.m. and with over the responsibility, I think is about our skill was improved a lot in many ways. And yes, also responsibility and my teams. Maybe sometimes I have to like, where's my work? You have to send your work now. Or sometimes the quality of their work is not satisfactory, or some people like copy and paste it on, which I can is unacceptable. So I just blame him, and you have to do what we have said and we have talked. Yet it's not only my responsibility, but it's our team's responsibility. Yeah.
Thank you. I admire that. I struggle with asking people to do what they're supposed to do too. So props to you. Well done. And I'm sure the rest of you also did something along those lines. So well done on making it work.
Yeah. So while we're waiting for them to set up, we can just kind of stand up a bit and then they can start setting up and then we can keep talking between ourselves. Yes. Okay. So you can set up. Thank you, guys. Not yet. Not yet with the applause because we're waiting for the music first. So we do the group later. And so what interesting is that the ideas of them working together is not just making the music or just performing as usual, but it's actually to work together in ways that they learn how to make music in any circumstance, actually.
Yeah, I think music doesn't just exist on the performer's world. You're making music and there's going to be an audience and you need support to get yourself out there. So you can't just be working alone and thinking for yourself. You have to think as a team and think for the audience, what you're producing for them. and think for like there's so many aspects that you just can't think for yourself all the time. Yeah.
And another thing that I think they learned from this process is that if they wanted their music to be out into the world, they have to take responsibility to deliver it. You can see already from the first example, Warid, when he used all this kind of like cartoons or finding new angles, finding the medium of YouTube in producing, like kind of getting the music out to the world. So that's everybody's responsibility, not just the PR people or just someone else that will do it for you. So it's the young musician. So, and I guess they're now ready. We can hear a little bit. So we'll see if like before making all this project and after, how does it sound like? So that's it. So that's the presentation of PGM 5. They are all third year now, and that was part of that MLB music project that they did during the second years that they're studying here. You might be able to follow their Facebook and their webpage for all the presentations of not only just one piece, but many different pieces. So last applause to the team again. Here. Before we proceed to the next sessions, okay, before we proceed to the next question, next place, we would like to maybe just add a little bit of what will happen in that third and the fourth years. So in the third year, this is a part that they have to kind of like present their own recitals, and in PGVIM we actually give them the opportunity to explore a little bit of other mediums as well. So as you might see, that some of them are using other kind of art form. They use drawings, they use a kind of like paintings, or but you will see more with the 4 projects that we are just about to showcase to you today. The first one we will hear from Shanita, who's actually doing the kind of like semi music education, music program, TV program, to communicate her instrument, which is viola. With the second person, we will see Patrapon, who actually explore the idea of music and graphics, and we will see how he integrated both of that into his performance. And the third person, we will see as examples of fourth-year students, Nishanan, who's actually exploring beyond her normal repertoire. So she already did her own repertoire, exploring different directions of how those music can means to her. And then, but now she related to the idea of technology and how technology affected her lives. And as an artist, how can she express those understanding through music that is not just only performing, but also creating. And the last person, very special one, Kong Chai, who's actually go beyond the art of arts and music, but he actually starting to develop his own applications and develop his own website, combining the work of music compositions that related to the stars and the universe. So you will hear a bit later of how these 4 projects are explained by the students themselves instead of me. So I'm passing on to Ajahn Thanisa, who will be the moderator for us in the second half here, and then the 4 students I've already mentioned. So please, Ajahn Thanisa, ขอบคุณค่ะ.
So thank you, Ajahn Anothai, for involving me in the recital project Diaries process or developing of ideas. I feel really honored to get to see really wonderful projects every year here at PGVIM. So we are starting with Chanita. You're on your 4th year here already in viola.
Yeah.
Viola major. So can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your project?
This is my junior recital project that I published last semester, and I just first before COVID-19, I just I have an inspiration to do an educational tools, and then the COVID came, and it's quite related to the COVID-19 situations. and this is quite a big project for me. So this project starts with a question that have I always asked myself since I started studying classical music, that how can I make my mom enjoy more in classical music?
I think that's a question that a lot of us have asked ourselves. Yeah.
Yeah, and not only my mom's, but like my whole families, because like they see classical music as being a part of an elite cultures, as a high art form that they can't understand, even if they are trying to. And as you all know, I am a music student, which is kind of like unusual from my whole family perspective. And I came to realize that it was not only within my family, but also in Thailand, and like a whole classical music is not that well known, and music education is not widely spread throughout this country. So I decided to change the question from how can I make my mom enjoy classical music into how can I make Thai people appreciate more in classical music.
First of all, side question. Why do you like classical music? What makes you like classical music?
I think the music for me is like, especially with classical music, it's related to my past musical experience, because like since I was young, my mom and dad was like take me to the music schools, and the classical music is the activities that mom and dad and also I are working together. So it's kind of a beautiful memories for me. And I love classical music in the way that they present a lot of some logical thing, and it's have a lot of story behind the piece. I was listening to Mozart and Beethoven since I was young, but just listening to it, I don't know the context behind. So when I grow up, I just want to know more about classical music.
Yeah, for similar reason with me too. I think classical music is kind of like my childhood music that once I'm grown up, I still like it because it's a lot of memories that I grew up with. Yeah, you can.
So, but my mom and dad's gonna like, oh, children must listen to classical music because it's good for their brains. But just that they didn't appreciate in like in art, but just only like for the technical ways.
So here comes the challenge to make mom and dad understand why we still play classical music,
yeah,
right?
it's something like that. And so I just want to talk a bit about my last symposium paper that I present in 2019, and I conclude that in the present day we are all living in a world that's full of diversities, cultural diversities, and we are all different, especially with regard to our experience of something as specialized as classical music. And the way we understand music is largely depends on our musical background. So I wanted to create even more musical experience by embarking on this project. And before we start, I just want to share a little bit a quote from Julian Johnson, a music professor from Royal Holloway's University of London who specialized in music history. So he mentioned that music has a capacity to make the imaginary seem palatable, to promise something that exceeds our immediate realities, and to recollect the lot of something infinitely valuable. So it's quite deep. And yeah, and I just want to mention that I am completely agree with this quote. And I think music also has a capacity to connect people and change attitudes and to improve people's ways of thinking. And in today, the world that is full of people hurrying and rushing, I think music can slow us down and make us focus more on self-centeredness. Considering this viewpoint, along with my resolve as a musician to show people how wonderful music is, I decided to create an online learning tools about classical music that I coordinate this project with my recital project. And yes, as I told you before, this is a very big project.
Looks like it.
So first, I designed a female character named Alto to be a narrator for this recital, because Alto names come to my major instrument, which is the viola. And in my video, I discuss the topics such as the composer's story behind the piece and how romanticism has an impact on musical career during that times. Included both serious and easy listening piece in the recital so that the audience could easily understand and hear the difference between many styles of classical music. The intention of this project is I want to make classical music more accessible and understandable for everyone. I just want to present that classical music is not always complicated and difficult to understand when we know the context behind. And for the expected outcome, I think audience will understand that studying music is not only about music. And I just want to mention that but it's need to enhance by knowledge of the social condition in the past and what was happening in the science, technology, and historical events during that time. And second, I just want audience to know more about general information such as a composer, which both in rudimentary level and a deeper levels. I talk about, as I mentioned, about the romanticism, which is quite which normal ordinary people didn't talk about much. They just know only the classical music, but we as a musician, we are learning about like the music history, Baroque, classical era, or like romantic era, and I just want to share it with others.
Maybe you'll mention it later, but do you find it hard to tell stories about these composers or what's back in the days, because it's still in a culture that's probably distant from our lives in Thailand here, right?
Yeah, I think it's not that hard because like I think in Thailand today, the cultures from the Western culture is not that far because the world is connected already, and I think the point is how can we explain the hard topic into the easy ways for all people to understand. I think like it's not about the content, but it's about the way how we can explain about the content. So I focus on how to communicate the music language into a normal language for like other people, especially with my families or the Thai peoples.
It's not the what, but it's the how.
Yeah. And for the working process, I complete the research aspect on both rudimentary and advanced level. And for the practical aspect, I just first ordering the concert program, drafting the storyboard, and start doing a digital painting and doing a voiceover and export into the video and post it on YouTube.
Nice.
And I found that during the development process, I encountered some technical issues. First, it was difficult to find a connection between each of the pieces on the program because they were very different in terms of times, periods, context, and musical purpose. Second, the working process seems unclear and tangled. So it took a lot of time to finish and it made me do like a lot of unnecessary work. Lastly, I did not understand the editing program and some drawing functions, so I felt like I was not able to fully explore my editing potential. But I keep this mistake and I will improve it for my this year recital. So this is how I face the problem, and it will be better next time because we all learn from mistakes.
Nice. Do you have some samples of your work coming up in a little bit?
Yeah. So, so this is the ending section that I just want to share with all of you.
We can go back to talk about your process later, but I think we're really hoping to see your ideas. So.
So for me, this project, I just want to talk about the connection to artistic developments. And for me, this project helped me understand music on a deeper level. I think it's important to understand that the connection in music can be found even if the pieces are composed in different period of times. in under different circumstances and by different composers. I acquired new skill for musical development, especially in interpretations. Knowing the context behind of each piece helped me to express the music much more easily, and it's helped me to feel that I was really into the musical piece. And also my technical skill is improved. So this is quite surprised. Like my major teacher told me that it's quite improved a lot. And this project absolutely helped me to with the communication skill, because I needed to learn how to explain the musical knowledge to those who are not used to classical music, and to be concise in order to make a non-musician understand. And
maybe can we have a little bit, maybe 1 or 2 more minutes of your presentation, and then let's talk about your work, yeah?
Okay, so for the feedback, I received a lot of positive feedback from my mom and my friends, and also like teacher and who just know about classical music, but they don't know how to interact with. So that is quite a positive feedback. And I just want to show the ending sections of my work. I hope the sound works. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So can I, before we get the sound here, we're trying to work on the sound, but so you, what did you make for this video?
I just talk about romanticism that made the composer and the performer part like separate, because like before during the bar. Oh yes, so maybe.
Yeah, and did you draw all of that?
Yeah,
Oh,
I
great.
draw all of that and I do a voiceover
Okay.
to record my sound.
So yeah, do you want to start from the beginning or?
ทำให้เราต้องใช้คนมากกว่าเก่าในการจัดแสดงคอนเสิร์ตการขยายตัวของอุตสาหกรรมทางดนตรีช่วยสร้างอาชีพใหม่มันเปลี่ยนแปลงอาชีพที่เกี่ยวกับดนตรีไปอย่างสิ้นเชิงดนตรีไม่ได้ถูกจำกัดด้วยช่วงเวลาและหน้าที่อีกต่อไปหมายถึงดนตรีชนิดนี้จะต้องเล่นในโบสถ์เท่านั้นหรือเพื่อโอกาสพิเศษสำหรับเหล่าขุนนางที่อยากจะฉลองปาร์ตี้เครื่องดนตรีเองก็พัฒนาเช่นกันทักษะการเล่นเครื่องดนตรีจึงพัฒนาตามทำให้การเล่นมีความซับซ้อนมากขึ้นนักประพันธ์และนักดนตรีเริ่มมีเส้นทางและความเชี่ยวชาญที่แตกต่างกันทำให้เราเห็นความแตกต่างของสองอาชีพนี้ชัดเจนขึ้นกว่าเมื่อก่อนตัวอย่างเช่นรูบินสไตน์กลายเป็นว่ารูบินสไตน์ถูกจดจำในฐานะนักเปียโนที่มีฝีมือดีเป็นอันดับต้นๆของโลกมากกว่าที่จะเป็นนักประพันธ์เพลงขณะเดียวกันในช่วงศตวรรษที่ 19 นี้เองยังเป็นช่วงที่มีการรื้อฟื้นดนตรีในยุคก่อนมาเล่นคู่กับดนตรีที่ถูกประพันธ์ขึ้นมาในสมัยนั้นอย่างที่เคยเล่าให้ฟังว่าการรื้อฟื้นในครั้งนี้ก็เกิดขึ้นกับดนตรีของบาร์กเช่นกันดนตรีในยุคก่อนๆจะเป็นดนตรีของใครบ้างล่ะ
Okay, thank you. So that was your voice?
Yes, it is my voice.
And the music is done by you and your accompanist?
Yeah. So I decided to put all my recital piece into a background, because like I just want to remind the audience to remember what I play. Just want to remind them. And in the ending, I just put the open question for audience to think. So I asked all of you, like, so if you were to be a musician living in the 21st centuries, which would you prefer, to have a multiple different skills or perfecting one skill in depth? So it's like an open question that I just want to ask a musician, but for like other career can also answer, because 21st centuries is like, it's all affects in every career, not only in music. And I will certainly continue doing this for my senior recitals as a volume 2. So please keep in touch with me.
Yeah, we'll keep in touch with you. One of the things is that I think it's a very important question, and some of us or some classical musicians are probably reluctant to answer the question because it's a very difficult question, and sometimes the answer is not so easy to hear, right? Like, maybe you're not that applicable today anymore. Like, that's really hard to hear, but I think all of us will have to understand and think about it and adjust to it. I think that's a challenge that we all face. So I think it's a really great question that you ask. We are running out of time.
Yeah, I'm afraid, but we can, as she said, that we can always tune into her channel. I think we had a little discussion yesterday in another session, and she was thinking of creating her own platform. So please stay tuned to Shanita's works. And then the next person, like while they're setting up, thank you very much, Shanita. ขอบคุณค่ะ. And thank you, Ajahn Thanisa. So the next person we would like to invite on stage with Ajahn Thanisa is Pattarapon Sukhajipon, and the project he did is a little bit different from Shanita. Shanita concentrated very much on the music she performed as her repertoire and how she can explain that music to people outside using different kind of mediums. But the second person that we have here, Pattarapon, he decided to explore a completely different mediums. He has a very keen heart in working with art. He himself like to draw, like always the person who do all the poster design to his colleagues. So this time he decided to integrate both love of music and the arts together and works on the project which is called Chromatique. And he actually did a kind of like a long journey for a year and trying to discover how music and art were created and were kind of like related in since the times of Newton and all those kind of things. So we will be with him in a second, and he himself, maybe just a little bit about him that I'd like to tell. He's a viola student. He really like reading, watching films and different kind of things. So one of the discussion that we had early at the beginning is how to find the things that he likes and make it together related to the music that he plays this semester. So now I think he's ready, so we can turn it back to you. Thank you.
So welcome on stage, Pattarapon, or your name is Ping, right?
Yes. Okay. Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Pattarapon Sukhajipon, and this is my recital project presentation about my project named Chromatique, Music and Graphic in Dialogue. And first of all, let me introduce myself about who am I. I am just an ordinary, typical music student around the world that have to practice, have to perform something. But beside my musician side of my life, I'm also having an interest in graphic design work. And also I have quite a lot of experience in field of graphic design since I'm graduate from art design major in high school. So when I have to design my own project, I'm end up with some idea of some kind of interdisciplinary work, like combining my musician skills with the creativity in graphic design skills.
I have a slight question. Yes. So how did you decide to study music, continue to study music if your background was from graphic design? And what was the role of music in your life early on?
Yes, I have been in the school chamber music band in high school. So that inspired me something in music, and that made me decide to study in music career. Yeah.
Nice. All right.
Okay. So that leads me to the project question: how the music and art can be working together, and also maybe this could be another way to interpret the music. So that made me to do a little bit of research for the reference for this project. The music and art, in my opinion, it seems to be two separate things, and that seems to be independent on their own, but not exactly, because in the history of the world, there are so many stories that these two kind of art can be connected or can be related or even influenced to each other, like some of the reference that I have in research. The first one is Isaac Newton. Everyone knows Isaac Newton. He is one of the greatest scientist of all time. He invented so many physics law that make us suffer when we high school. But let me tell you something about Isaac Newton when he invented rainbow in 1665. Uh, in that time, rainbow had just 5 colors. There is red, green, blue, yellow, and violet. But Newton decided to add 2 more, which is orange and indigo. The multi colors of the spectrum, why Newton had to add 5 plus 2 colors or 7 colors, because he thought that the colors of the rainbow were analogous to the notes in musical scales.
Wow.
Yes, it seems to be strange but interesting in the same way. Even this may be an coincidence or even an analogy, but it still can show us that some basic elements of music, like notes, can be influenced or can be related to the other transcendence like art or even science.
Let's unpack that a little bit. So we know we have 7 notes in music.
Yes.
Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, or C to B, right?
Yeah.
And how does each note pair with colors? Do you know, like, what is C?
So like in the diagram that we show here, this is made by Newton himself, and he already like wrote down which color is which notes.
So is C between indigo and violet?
Yes. So it's like the musical scale when you're playing up and the colors is changed by the notes, by the colors. Yeah.
Yeah, and this might be a little, I don't know how difficult this question is, but why are there different sizes of the pie there?
Yeah, I don't know exactly.
I don't either.
Yeah, but it's actually like just an analogies for him. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I didn't know Isaac Newton thought at all about music,
Yeah, yeah.
so that's great. Fellow musician.
Yeah, me too. Okay, so the next reference is Vasily Kandinsky. He's a Russian composer and also a theorist who put the music in his art with his synesthesia condition. Yeah, it all started when he heard the opera by Wagner, and he can see many colors and form and shapes floating in the air, and that changed his life forever. So he trying to
Yeah, me too.
develop.
Okay,
He trying to develop the new kind of abstract art by denying to use the typical forms and colors. Yes, and the next one is Paul Klee. He is the Swiss-born German who also play violin. Oh, he's an artist, but he also play violin since he was young, and he can play it quite well. He joined the Bauhaus in 1920, and at that, with surrounding of many great artists, he started to develop his new kind of art by combining music and art together. So with the music that he loved and the art that he trying to break down the elements of music, like the staff line, the bar line, the notes, the shape of the symbol or something like that, and turn them into the element of art and create a very unique style of art. Yeah. Like in this one, this is the piece named in the style of Bach by Paul Klee, which is based on E minor fugue by Johann Sebastian Bach.
Oh, so Paul Klee interpreted other people's, other composers'
Yes.
works too, and as well as his own work?
Yes.
Yeah, great.
And the other difference is the color from the different era. And okay, we will talk about this in the process of work session. So as we can see, there are so many ways to connect the music and art together. And now it's my turn to do my work by trying to interpret them and turn them into the graphic art.
Do you have like an inspiration who combined music and art together? Like, did you have some artists that you admired for doing the work you're about to show?
Actually, most of my work were based on the idea of Paul Klee. Yeah,
Oh.
but like what he did. Okay, so in the first piece that I perform, I have two pieces to perform in this recital. The first one is Recitals Vela Concerto in B minor. So what I did in this piece is like the Klee did, which is I'm trying to break down the element of music in my score, which is their physically form, their line, their melodic lines, their form of the notes, or even the curve or the slur lines, and turn them into the many doodles patterns. And in the color part, this piece is the Baroque piece in the Romantic era, which is composed by Henri Casadesus. He is a French composer in Romantic era, but he's trying to imitate the style of Baroque and the style of Handel. So in the color part, I decided to research about the color palettes back in the Baroque era and use them, try to imitate them like what Casadesus did in this piece. That is the piece, is the Baroque piece in the Romantic era. So the outcome,
A little.
oh yes,
yeah, please.
yeah. So the outcome is the graphic art name devised, which is mean redo or recreate, same as the idea of the piece that is the Baroque piece in the Romantic era.
Yeah, just a slight question. Do you find any connection between the palette and the notes?
Actually, yes. I'm trying to interpret them. Like I'm listening to the music and trying to imagine what the color is right now, and trying to think about the colors and choose what color to choose by picking from the palette from the Baroque that I researched.
Yeah, in my opinion, it's like when you have a palette of the colors that you use for a painting, it's like you have a scale. You pick which ones go well within
Yes.
this piece, and then you use those ingredients to create your work, right?
Yes.
Yeah, great. Please
Okay.
go on.
And the next piece that I perform is Romance Oubliée, which is the romantic piece written by Franz Liszt. In this piece, I decided to focus on the colors because this bit have to, the one thing that important in these pieces is the tone colors and the expression when you play. So when I have to focus up, I do a little bit research about the color theory and found one theory that named Trilopsynoptic. It is the color theory about how to mixing the primary color like a sound waves, as you can see. Yes.
Music theory, color theory. Yeah.
Yes. And then I'm create the basic shapes with the primary color and stack them up together. And the outcome is the artwork named Forgotten Romance, which is the meaning of the Romance Oubliée name.
Did you make this collage yourself?
Yes.
So what's the thoughts behind the layering of things?
They are just feel like in this piece, there just have too many colors happen. Liszt composed this pretty well. He can put the potential of the viola to the max level and make us violist, make the viola can show their potential to play many colors. So that's why I use this color theory to create this some kind of art that that can be shown many colors in the piece.
Yeah, it's like colorful but also controlled, right?
Yes.
They're not like a rainbow color going on. And also the balance,
Yes.
right? In music, you have the balance. And so as visual arts, you can't have too much of like, I guess, saturation on one side and none on the other, right? Great.
Yes. Okay, yeah. So in the process of communication between music and art, these artwork will be a material for the projector mapping in the hall when I perform, which will be triggered by the cue in my score based on what happened in the piece, like this one. can see that visually in the background maybe change, follow the music. Yeah. Yes, and then here comes the COVID-19, the unexpected event that we have to embrace it, right? So during the COVID-19, all of the recital and performance have to be canceled due to that situation.
All the live ones, all the
the live one.
on site.
Yes, yes. So we all have to change something a little bit. We are starting to do our work at home and come to institute when the situation start to resolve and do the performance recording under the social distancing protocol. But beside that, for me, I'm also doing some documentary film. This is when we recording. But beside that, I'm also doing some short documentary film about the process of the work for the presenting, to be another way to presenting the project via an online platform.
So I just want to talk about the 3 words you put on there a little bit. Sen, si, xiang.
Yes, the
or
line, colors, and sound.
yeah, can you talk a little bit about
Yes,
that?
which is it's like the main idea of the whole project, which is they're all based on the line, the colors of the art in the music and the sound of the music, which is can be connected together.
So for sen, what meaning does that have in music?
It's can be like the when you're playing the song continue and it creates some kind of melodic line.
Yeah.
Something like that.
And the journey,
Yes,
right? And for si,
for C, it's for colors. It's like you have to interpret the colors of the piece, of the whole piece, and trying to. For me, it's like trying to imagine that colors. Yeah, and play along with them to make the music more lively or have more colors in it.
yeah. And for me, it's the harmony too, right? Yeah, it's a harmony that makes color. Anyways, do you have a little bit more to show because we're a little short in time?
No, that's
Oh,
all.
that's it.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Any other questions you'd like to ask him?
Oh, I was just gonna ask about Xiang because that's kind of an audio concept. But what is Xiang in visual arts?
For me, it's like when you trying to interpret the music. In this whole project is also based on the idea of conversation between music and art. So I think about when you hear the music, you can see some picture, but also when you see this picture, you can also hear the music. Yeah, it's some kind like that idea.
Great. So thank you for helping me make connections everywhere because I try to connect the dots and some of the dots are a little harder to connect. So thank you for connecting them for me. And thank you for presenting your project. It's unfortunate that we can't see your documentary, but yeah, if you have it online, right? So
Yes, I have it in my website. So feel free to QR code or check in my website. All of the recital thing is in there. So yes.
Great. Thank you, Bing, for joining us at the panel.
So it's not just only the work itself, but it's all the documentations of the work that is quite crucial for our students. You can see that it's often that a lot of musicians at certain times, they always come with the idea of how can we go further than music? And yeah, fortunately, art is always the first target that we go to. But often that a lot of young musicians, when they think of connecting music with art, they always think of kind of reinventing the wheels most of the times. But as you can see from Pattarapon projects here, that this kind of idea has been explored already for hundreds and hundreds of years ago. So you can see from Isaac Newton, not only from the music artist side, but also from the scientist side as well. So it's important, like that, even as a musicians, that we have to, when we do research, when we make inquiries, that do go deeper and make sure that you go find enough examples, those kind of things. And the next person that would like to have join with us today is Nishanan. She's also very fond of combining music with other kind of art forms. And I remember in her last project, when she was in third year, she actually explored the ideas of music and cooking, and sort of like make her own recipes taken from the ideas of the repertoire. And this semester, she's taking it a bit different directions for her project, and she's now trying to make her own compositions, let's say, or make her own musical expressions based on the ideas of how technology affected our lives. And you can see that now they are having a little bit of technological affection on the life because of setting up. So I can tell you a little bit more about her projects a little bit. She herself is a pianist, and she's very fond of fashions. You will see her later, and she's really like to tell music in different ways. She's a very strong, one of the very strong players that we have here in PGVIM. She has a very strong technique, but at the same time developing her curiosities of music. So she's one of the examples for Pattarapon. He's more of like music growing out to the art form. Why Nishanan is a bit different. She thought of music as something, and other theme as something in separation from each other. And she's trying to find ways that the two things can be connected to each other. And with her having a kind of like a doppelganger character, a double life between her as a pianist and her as an artist or a creator of musical contents or visual graphic as well. So just they're still setting up a little bit. Maybe I can ask Thanisa to join me here just for a second. So what do you think so far with the two examples that we saw?
So both examples that I've seen are something to do with visual arts and storytelling in really different ways. The first project by Nong Hong was the idea of making music accessible. So the idea of creating an educational tool while incorporating visual arts and storytelling and music all together in a film. So that's really nice. I think as a teacher of small kids, it's always hard to find content that's suitable for kids. And I'm not sure if Hong was going for kids content, but it's always hard to find the right contents for you. So if you think of a target audience and you make it easy for that target audience to understand, I think that's something that we don't have enough of even on the internet, and it's always helpful.
Yeah, and the second person for Pattarapon is a bit different. So he's not exploring the idea of arts because of using it as a medium, but it's actually finding some connection so that it will benefit his own playing in some way. And what interesting, like that we found in that project is that at the beginning we thought that the Baroque music is a bit more monochrome, and the romantic music was going to be so vibrant in color. But when we found in the examples, the research that he did, it was actually the opposite. The Baroque music was full of forms and very clear lines and bright colors, while the romantic music is a bit more chromatic, a kind of monochrome. You can see that he only shows like blue, yellow, and red, and all a little bit of a kind of like very, how would you call, soft, and just really the ideas of the density that is a bit more important. So that's really something that I learned from working with him on this project as well. So
yeah, it's always interesting to study the palettes, different palettes you have for different forms of art.
Yeah. So now I'm sending you back to be with Nishanan on the other side.
Thank you.
I let her present her projects. Thank you.
So, สวัสดีค่ะ น้องผิงผิง Thank you for joining us. I know you've been maybe busy with different projects too. So it'd be great to hear your experience with your senior recital and also what you've been doing.
ก็คือผิงทำโปรเจกต์ชื่อ The Endless Summer ใช่ไหมตอนแรกคือจริงๆแล้วก็คือจะแบบแค่เล่นเปียโนแล้วก็ตอนแรกก็ยังไม่ชัดว่าจะทำอะไรอะค่ะแต่ว่าพอเกิดไวรัสระบาดปุ๊บก็เลยแบบว่ารู้สึกว่ามีเวลามากขึ้นก็เลยตัดสินใจว่าอยากทำแบบนำเสนองานออกมาเป็นแบบพรีเซนต์เป็นคลิปสั้นๆแทนแล้วคือไม่ได้เล่นแล้วก็เหมือนทำเพลงเองอะค่ะก็คือเอาเพลงแบบดัดแปลงมาจากเพลงที่ตัวเองเล่นแล้วก็ทำแบบแอนิเมชันไม่ใช่แอนิเมชันแบบก็คือแบบคลิปประกอบอะไรอย่างเงี้ยค่ะ
So just to clarify, is this your what project is this for? Is it your senior project or
เป็นซีเนียร์โปรเจกต์
เป็น senior project ของปีที่แล้วเหรอคะ
ค่ะ
ที่เพิ่งจบ
ที่เพิ่งจบไป
congratulations on your graduation. Okay, so just to translate a little bit, this is a project called The Endless Summer, and yeah, we'll just have a look at it.
ก็โปรเจกต์ The Endless Summer นะคะก็คือมันก็คือเป็นแบบเป็นแปลตรงๆก็คือแบบหน้าร้อนที่ไม่สิ้นสุดใช่ไหมแต่ว่าในความหมายของผิงก็คือผิงเปรียบเสมือนกับว่ามันเป็นฝันร้ายของเทคโนโลยีที่ไม่สิ้นสุดอะค่ะเพราะว่าแบบนึงนะ
So this is the endless nightmare because of the COVID situation, right?
แบบไม่เกี่ยวกับแบบทั้งเทคโนโลยีอะไรอย่างเงี้ยค่ะ
Because of technology. Just going back a little bit of context, you're saying that the COVID situation made you change your plans a little bit from playing a piece to taking bits of the piece and digest it in your own pace, right? Okay, we can continue.
โอเคก็คือก็แบบในปัจจุบันอะที่เทคโนโลยีมันก้าวไกลมากใช่ไหมแต่ว่าในขณะเดียวกันเหมือนเราก็ละเลยอะไรบางอย่างไปด้วยก็โปรเจกต์นี้มันก็เหมือนเกี่ยวกับอยากจะนำเสนอเกี่ยวกับเหมือนให้คนได้รู้ข้อดีข้อเสียของเทคโนโลยีอะไรเงี้ยให้เหมือนว่าเราใช้ชีวิตไปกับมันอย่างไม่งมงายอะไรประมาณนั้นนะคะแล้วก็
So this project explores the pros and cons of technology.
แล้วก็จุดประสงค์จริงๆเลยอะค่ะถ้าไม่เกี่ยวกับโปรเจกต์อันเนี้ยก็คือผิงเหมือนอยากลองทำพวกแอนิเมชันทำซาวแบบว่าเขาทำซาวยังไงในหนังอะไรอย่างเงี้ยแล้วก็แบบดูพวกสัญลักษณ์ที่เขาสร้างในหนังอะค่ะว่าภาพฉากอะไรเงี้ยเขาทำแบบหมายถึงอะไรเงี้ยก็คืออยากลองรีเสิร์ชด้านนี้ด้วยค่ะ
So Ping Ping is interested in researching the thought process of how to construct an image for movies or animations. ค่ะ
ก็เลยลองค้นคว้างานจากดูหนังที่แบบเกี่ยวกับเทคโนโลยีก็จะมีแบบพวกข้อมูลที่เกี่ยวกับแบบอย่างเรื่องที่เกี่ยวกับ AI รวมกับมนุษย์เนี่ยแล้วก็เรื่องที่เกี่ยวกับการใช้ชีวิตในศตวรรษที่21จนไปถึงศตวรรษที่จะไปในอนาคตแล้วก็ลองดูแบบพวกหนังอย่างหนังสือของยูวัลโนอาฮารารีที่จะเกี่ยวกับแบบว่าเทคโนโลยีอะไรเงี้ยแล้วก็ลองดูพวกเพลงซาวภาพประกอบอะไรเงี้ยค่ะแล้วก็เอามาลองใช้ปรับกับของตัวเองอะไรประมาณ
So you did some research there into movies and media about AI and technology, right? And yeah, they're both in forms of movies and books and many different things. ค่ะ
ก็แล้วพอเสร็จแล้วก็ลองแบบมาทดลองกับงานของตัวเองโดยใช้แบบเพลงคลาสสิกที่ดัดแปลงใช่ดัดแปลงมาจากเพลงคลาสสิกอะค่ะแล้วก็มาผสมกับอิเล็กทรอนิกส์บ้างอะไรอย่างนี้แล้วก็แบบพวกภาพก็ลองแบบคิดไอเดียอะไรเงี้ยก็ลองทำดู
อันนี้ทำเองหมดเลยใช่ไหม
ทำหมดอันนี้
เราจะได้ดูไหมอยากดูอ่ะ
ดูอันไหนดี
เอาอันที่แบบ
อันไหน
proudly present เลยค่ะอันที่ภูมิใจนำเสนอเลยค่ะ
Dinner is
อ๋ออันเนี้ยคือเอาใหม่แป๊บนึง
New text message received
แป๊บนึงนะโอเคคืออันเนี้ยมันเกี่ยวกับว่าการรับประทานอาหารบนโต๊ะกินข้าวที่ปัจจุบันเหมือนกับว่าเราเล่นโทรศัพท์อะไรอย่างเงี้ยเราไม่ค่อยพูดคุยกันอะไรประมาณนี้เพลงนี้ผิงก็ใช้แบบว่าพวกซาวด์ที่เกี่ยวกับอาหารมาใส่ด้วยอะแล้วก็ซาวด์พวกแบบแอปพลิเคชันในโทรศัพท์อะไรอย่างเงี้ยมาลองทำแล้วก็พวกจากดัดแปลงมาจากเพลงคลาสสิกนะคะเอาไหมไม่
Dinner is served. New text message received.
How did you present your recital? So there are a lot of videos there, right? Did you put all of them on your website? And ขอโทษค่ะพูดผิดภาษาค่ะพูดภาษาไทยแล้วก็เอาวิดีโอทุกอันมาต่อกันแล้วเราเล่าเรื่องยังไงคะ
ตอนเล่าเรื่องคือเล่าอีกอันนึงเป็นตอนที่ทำคลิปอันสุดท้ายอะค่ะโดยการแบบว่าใช้เสียงตัวเองพูดเกี่ยวกับเรื่องราวที่เกิดณปัจจุบันแบบว่าอย่างจำไม่ได้ต้องไปก็คือแบบใช้เสียงตัวเองพูดอัดแล้วก็เอามา distort ในโปรแกรมค่ะ
โอเคเดี๋ยวเราลองดูกันเลยนะคะ
ให้คิดดูอันนี้ก่อน
อันนี้ก็เป็น reality ของเรานะคะเวลาดูอะไรบางทีก็จะติดขัดบ้างค่ะ
It's going to be part of the performance tonight, so please stay tuned for the performance. You see the whole performance tonight.
ค่ะน้องผิงมี performance คืนนี้ใช่ไหมคะ
อ๋อ
ค่ะก็เดี๋ยวเราจะได้ดูกันทีหลังนะคะเริ่ม1 ทุ่มใช่ไหมคะ performance ของคืนนี้ค่ะโอเคติดตามกันด้วยนะคะขอคุยต่อเรื่องpresentation ของน้องผิงค่ะขอแบบ scroll ให้ดูนิดนึงได้ไหมว่ามีหน้าตายังไงบ้างงานของน้องผิงอะค่ะอาจจะไม่ต้องเปิดก็ได้แต่ว่าเล่าให้ฟังนิดนึงว่างานแต่ละงานต่างกันยังไงบ้าง
อันนี้
อันไหนก็ได้เลยค่ะ
ถ้าเกิดอันที่เป็นลอนโดก็คือใช้เพลงจากพาติต้าเบอร์2เปียโนอะค่ะเป็นท่อนลอนโดแล้วก็อันเนี้ยพรีเซนต์เกี่ยวกับเรื่องเกี่ยวกับอะไรนะขยะในทะเลอะไรประมาณนั้นว่าส่วนภาพที่ใช้ก็เลยเป็นแบบว่าเป็นบับเบิลแต่ว่าไม่ใช่ฟองบับเบิลในทะเลแต่ว่าเป็นบับเบิลที่เราห่อของถ้าเห็นภาพอันเนี้ยมันเป็นบับเบิลอันนั้นนะคะแล้วก็อย่าง
เอาไอเดียเรื่องขยะในทะเลมาเกี่ยวกับรอนโดยังไงเอ่ย
แบบคิดเพราะว่าเพลงมันทำนองมันแบบว่าถ้าลองฟังไม่ใช่หมายถึงว่ามันเป็นแบบเพลงมันเหมือนแบบฟองเหมือนอะไรพลาสติกเด้งอะไรอย่างเงี้ยก็เลยลองเอามาเมิร์จกัน
เหมือนมีเสียงบับเบิ้ลเสียงอะไรเนาะ
ค่ะในเพลง
แล้วก็ยับเหรอคะค่ะ
แล้วก็
มีอันไหนเอ่ยมันอันไหนอีก
มี
ตอน Senior Recital ของผิงเล่นเพลงอะไรมั้งคะ
เล่นเพลงเบโธเฟนโอปุส81แล้วก็
Lesa Do
ใช่ค่ะแล้วก็มีอะไรมีไม่ใช่บาร์คพาดิต้า
ค่ะ
เบอร์2
เป็นเพลงที่ใหญ่เลย
C minor อันนั้นแล้วก็ใช่จริงๆมีอีกอันหนึ่งแต่ว่าตัดออกไปแล้วเพราะว่าโควิด
ค่ะแล้วไปแต่ละอันเนี่ยมันสัมพันธ์กันบ้างไหมคะวิชวลที่ออกมา
ถ้าเกิดเป็นของบาพาดิต้าจะเป็นเรื่องเกี่ยวกับเหมือนเกี่ยวกับมนุษย์อะเกี่ยวกับว่าเทคโนโลยีทำอะไรกับเราบ้างอะไรประมาณนี้แต่ว่าถ้าเกิดเบโธเฟนจะเป็นเรื่องราวเกี่ยวกับถ้าเกิดเบโธเฟนเอาใหม่เบโธเฟนก็คือแบบ AI อะทำอะไรกับเราบ้างอะไรเงี้ยว่ามันมีผลกระทบอะไรกับเราส่วนบาพาดิต้าก็จะแบบจำไม่ค่อยได้
ผ่านมาสักพักหนึ่งแล้วเนาะค่ะค่ะแล้วในส่วนของวิชวลพิงไปเอามาจากไหนหรือว่าวาดเองหรือว่าแบบทำหลายๆแนวเลยคะ
ก็บางอันก็มีแบบอัดเองบ้างอะค่ะอย่างอันนู้นก็อันเนี้ยอัดเองแล้วก็บางอันก็คือแบบไปเอามาจากในอินเทอร์เน็ตเนี่ยแล้วก็มารวมตัดกัน
ค่ะก็เหมือนเป็นการคอลลาจเนาะเป็นการเอามาบวกกันจนมันเป็นผลงานใหม่ในรูปแบบของเราเองโอเคน้องผิงมีอะไรสุดท้ายจะบอกเล่าก่อนที่เราจะหมดเวลาไหมคะ
อันสุดท้ายก็คือพอทำแบบว่าลองทำทั้งเพลงอะไรอย่างเงี้ยทดลองมาแล้วก็คือรู้สึกว่าแบบเพลงคลาสสิกพอมารวมกับเพลงใหม่ๆในปัจจุบันนะคะมันค่อนข้างน่าสนใจมากเพราะว่าถ้าลองดูอย่างพวกแบบอย่างมารูน5อย่างเงี้ยก็เอาเพลงแคนนอนมาทำใหม่ซึ่งมันก็เก๋ไปอีกแบบอย่างเงี้ยก็คือรู้สึกว่าพอการที่มันรวมกันมันก็เหมือนช่วยเพิ่มความคูลเข้าไปอีกอะไรเงี้ยก็อยากให้แบบว่ารักษาคลาสสิกเข้ากับดนตรีปัจจุบันไปด้วยก็ได้อะไรเงี้ยค่ะให้มันน่าสนใจมากยิ่งขึ้น
ค่ะเอาเพลงคลาสสิกมาพรีเซนต์ในรูปแบบปัจจุบันนะคะติดตามผลงานน้องผิงคืนนี้19:00 นเป็นต้นไปด้วยนะคะแล้วก็มีน้องๆอีกหลายคนเลยค่ะที่จะมี presentation คืนนี้ขอบคุณค่ะ
ขอบคุณ
So that was Nishanando, and she is actually very fluent in English. But I think she made a point that maybe she would like to address some of the audience who are in Thailand now. So if any of you kind of missed that, you can look at the transcriptions of translation in the CC, the captions down there. And maybe just to summarize a little bit, her project is about kind of like addressing the impact of technology that has on our lives, and she was addressing in with different repertoires like Bach and all those kind of things, with the ideas of plastic problems and environmental problems, and also the impact or the fear of AI that's coming into our lives. So in some way that technologies you can address kind of like this kind of warning is important, isn't it? That we have to all be aware, and art and music is one of the things that can pose some kind of thoughts that people can start thinking about it, but not being too scared. If you're kind of going and tell people about this kind of problem, it's really scary. But once you do it with art, it's a bit kind of like a soft power, as you say, isn't it? And the next one, anything you'd like to add for Nishanan projects?
I found her imageries very convincing, very compelling. And I would really like to see all the clips because they look really great to me and I would like to see them.
You have to stay for the concert tonight. That's it.
Yep.
That's it. So the next person we would like to invite on stage is Kong Shai. He's a violinist, very, very good violinist. He's also a composer. He's also made his own album. He also created his own website and own application. So the real entrepreneur. And maybe I let him explain about his projects because I think he'll do a great job. Okay, good luck.
All right, thank you, Kong, for joining us today. I just right away would like to hear about your projects.
Okay. So I'm a fourth-year student here at PGVIM. Today I'm going to talk about my previous interdisciplinary recital project called Astrum, and I shall walk you all through how I went from having nothing concrete to having satisfying results that combine different aspects of music and technology. So initially, I knew that I wanted to create something that would challenge me, that would push me into the directions that I was not comfortable in. And the reason for having eventually chosen this interdisciplinary project was that it really combines every single aspect of my skills as a violinist, as a creator, as a thinker, as a composer. And by doing this, I have made sure that whatever I was doing at the time was keeping me on my toes. So when I started, the problem was that the word interdisciplinary was a little too vague. It lacked focus, kinda. So I needed something more tangible, something that I can subsequently build something concrete further upon. So the idea at the onset was to combine somehow my passion for the field of astronomy, technology, and music together, possibly using technology as a link between music and astronomy. So, yeah. So to start off, I had always been fascinated with technology, especially how the thing that are inside our pockets can compute over millions of calculations a second, our phones. So the prospect of combining the interactivity of such devices, their interactivity, their accessibility, their portability with the art of music making was very enticing for me. I really wanted to create something out of that as a creator. So for my first step, while still having next to no idea at all what to do with my project, I began drawing a rough schematic on the right of my then-to-be application. So the idea behind the app was to allow the user to control different elements of the music that they're listening to in real time. And each sound unit, as I call them, will rotate around the user's head binaurally. So it means that you're going to need headphones to listen to it properly. And because of this different rotations between each sound unit, the users will, no, not the users, the application will automatically, if you can say, generate different variations of the music at the same time. No, not at the same time, at the end. So yeah, the UI eventually got refined at the end, but the idea behind the application stayed the same, was that to have a platform where the listener or the users can alter the direction of the music in real time, creating therefore a more personalized experience. So I'm going to show you.
That's really cool.
So I'm going to show you shortly that, and this is only the first part of the project. There's like another one. It's this one. So that's the emulator. What you can do is go to choose a planet. And for this, for now, I'm going to go with Earth. Yeah, commit.
What is the app called?
Astrum. You all can get it from Google Play Store. It's live.
Great.
So yeah, now I'm just going to go with Soundset 3. You can actually change all these units later. And you might hear some pops and cracks. That's because of the Android emulator not working properly, but that's not something I have control over. Yeah, so if you have a headphone, you will actually be able to pinpoint the exact location of each dot, so each sound unit in real time. Yeah, the pops and cracks are a little bit annoying, but I cannot do anything about it. So for example, that one controls the long pads, basically. So if I were to change that, I can just click on that. Yeah, now we hear different textures. These sound units are created especially for this planet. So each planet has their own set of textures, essentially. yeah, so that's for the app.
So how many planets are there?
8.
Oh, nice.
So every planet in our solar system. So yeah, app demonstration. And there's one problem with this, was that the thing about the app was that it was very programming heavy, right? Because I myself, I'm not a professional programmer. I'm a composer. So I thought to myself that this app did not really do my musical abilities justice. So because I wanted this project to be interdisciplinary, I wanted this project to tackle every single part of my neurons as an artist. So, and this is where my next project comes in. It's still in Aspen, but it's like a theory project.
I see.
Yeah.
Does it still appear on the same app?
It's not on the app. This one is on the website, but they work together, as we shall see in a moment how they come together. So yeah, when I was working on the app, I had to constantly remind myself that big goal of this entire project was that I wanted to challenge myself. I wanted to venture into paths that I've never ventured before. And somehow this project still had to relate to the theme of astronomy and technology. And seeing how I was already developing an application, so I decided to develop a website to complement the user's experience. So this place was to be where users can come listen to my music while I regale them of the wonderful stories about our solar system. So by doing this, I was showing essentially people fully my ardent passions for all the fields simultaneously. And the pieces made for the websites were later dissected for the app. So the sound that we listened to in the app was actually made for the website first, because essentially the app has like a completely different set of sounds. Yeah, so I'm going to show you the website real quick if we still have time. So that's the website. Let's go to the, yeah, so recall that when we looked at my app, I was looking at Earth, right? And now I'm going to look at Earth again, but we're going to hear how the similarities between the two systems.
Earth.
And
There is a saying shared
the
across
narration
the
is done
universe.
by my friend Lorna.
Planet 36277 is
The
a
music is
special
off right
world.
now.
It is a liquid world that fills up 3/4 of its mass with water. It sustains billions of
end.
species of creatures. Its residents live on the tallest peaks of the coldest mountains, to the hottest plains of its barren deserts, and into the depths of its ocean.
Yeah, this one is more like
It is a world filled with
cinematic
varied
experience
colors
more than that one, because
and
we have stories. We have stories that Lorna has made specifically for this website. And what you can do is that the stories are all based on real facts. So you can actually click on the facts and see where she got that from. So for example, she said tallest, so we can tap on that and see how she got that fact. Yeah. Yeah, so that's basically the entire idea behind the website, and that is taken from NASA's eyes. So not by me, but NASA. Yeah.
What about Saturn? Can we see Saturn?
Okay, sure.
Saturn. Her name is Cassini Huygens, and she is a lone explorer on a journey to Saturn's rings and moons. After 7 Earth years of traveling through space, she has finally reached the 6th planet and its family of icy moons. The rings revolve around the world as its moons orbit around the planet with its methane rivers and methane seas. She coasts about its moons, especially on Titan and Enceladus.
Yeah, and for
which
example,
shows
if
the possibility
you got
of
tired
harboring
at
life.
the beginning, you want to skip to the end because we have
Drawing nearer
11
to Saturn,
minutes of
she
music.
takes pictures of the
You can
spokes
just
in the
scroll
rings,
around at the top,
fine
and this one
particles
controls the
dust
volume of the music.
interweaving with the floating rocks. Scanning the rings, she hears them sing. The resonances bounce with the waves of the moons, creating
I have
a chilling
some
melody
questions,
in
but
orbital
is there
resonance.
anything you would like to present a little bit more before we go to questions?
I mean, that's basically my entire project.
That's a huge project. So
Yeah.
really, really well
Yeah.
done.
Thank you.
So you mentioned earlier about wanting to step away from interdisciplinary. I guess it's too vague, right? So how have you found yourself making it a little more concrete by making this project?
Yeah. So the idea at the onset, like even before I began thinking about interdisciplinary, was that I wanted to express myself, but I did not know how. So I was like, well, what can I do? Like as a creator, what can I do? What are my capabilities at the moment? And back then, I mean, I had always been fascinated with technology, but I had absolutely no idea how to code, how to create something involved that actually uses these technologies. So within 6 months, I was like, okay, I'm gonna take this time to learn coding so that I can create the website and the app to actually do what I want, to create something new that challenged myself, which is to create the app, something that users can interact, and the website.
Was the app idea pre-COVID or was it like the ample of time?
Pre-COVID, actually.
Nice.
But yet, you know, before COVID, everything was actually supposed to be smaller. So the app was, because in the app right now, you can do, I have implemented so many functionalities, for example. Because it can take like a while for the sound units to actually spread around your head, right? But I've implemented a system where you can just drag and spread all the sounds around your head like that. And then you can control the volume. Like all these stuff are post-COVID because these things took a lot of time for me to implement. Like I said at the beginning, I'm not a professional programmer, so it took me quite a while.
Looks like you are one now.
No, so still not, I don't, but thank you.
Yeah, so I have another question about the sounds. How did you create all the sounds, and was it a collaboration?
No, all me. Yeah, all by myself. I used FL Studio. I think I have it in here, but I didn't. Yeah, I didn't
So it's
prepare the
all
project.
done electronically?
Electronically, I recorded myself playing the violin. I used Chanita's viola. She's not here anymore. Yeah, I used her viola. And actually, this asset here, I actually commissioned her to draw for me. Because as you saw, she
commissioned her.
Yeah, she was actually a very good artist when it comes to drawing, right? So I was like, okay, can you draw some planets for me? And then she drew these stuff for me. Yeah, so.
And so about incorporating acoustic music and electronic music, how do you see the two worlds come together? It seems like you use both in your app.
So for me, actually, they has never been something that did not belong together. For me, they've always been the same thing under this area that you can call music creation. For me, it's a little. It did not really make sense for me to categorize stuff because that would be cordoning yourself off from reaching into this new frontier that nobody has ventured into. So I think that is something, for example, combining music and technology. I know many people has done that already, but for me to think outside of the box has really helped me bring into fruition whatever I wanted to do at the moment. Yeah, so by simply having set an overly ambitious goal at the onset, the results were very satisfactory for me. I had learned tons of valuable skills. I had had the opportunity to compose in styles like these styles, the binaural stuff I had never done before. So these styles I never would have had the chance to do were it not for this project. And for having absolutely zero programming and sound design experience, I was able to eventually create an application and a website from scratch, whose existence has made my project significantly more valuable than it could have been otherwise.
Yeah, so wrap-up question. Who are your target users and where do you see this project going in the future?
Yeah, that's my problem. I didn't think about that. Yeah, I didn't think who my target audience was because, like I said, I wanted to create a project about myself. So it was actually for myself.
It actually looks very user-friendly. So I'm sure the audience would enjoy using it too, right? But maybe, yeah, that's something to think about for the future. And yeah, talking about the future, do you have ideas of how you would want to develop more projects in the future?
Yeah, I talked to it with my advisor about expanding this project further, but time's not really on my side, even though I really want to, you know, further develop upon this project. Yeah, one possible scenario would be trying to make it really user-friendly, make it really stable, and sell it to some educational institutions. We don't know what yet, but you know, really combining these aspects, we're able to create something that really that retains the audience. For example, if you bring a child into, if you present this to a child, they might go like, how do you do this and that? You know, we have to like refine those frontier, like refining the user experience and the user interfaces. But I think in the end, if we can do that, this one is that would actually be a very marketable asset that we can sell to some, I don't know, someone.
Yeah, really well done. So thank you for sharing about the project, and it really has a lot of potentials. It's already very polished, and in the future, I'm sure you can make this into something on a larger scale and relate to different people in the future. So thank you for joining us today.
Thank you very much, Kong Chai. I think I really like if Ajahn A could join me here just a little bit. So thank you for your projects. And what I really like about his project is that he actually get the whole school on our toes in a way that we have to really kind of like refigure, kind of like rethinking of what music could possibly mean, and the ideas of contextual studies or recitals, maybe it can go much further than we thought of at the beginning. So this is something that we really like about the challenge that the student actually posted to us in a way that, as you say, he doesn't want to kind of like separate things into category, and this is everything is connected. And sometimes another thing that I learned is that sometimes you just have to do a project for yourself, and then from that you can possibly grow. So another time you can kind of like start, there's two ways of doing it. So one, you can start in for your own self, and maybe another direction is coming like Shanita, she was trying to do it for her mom, for example. So both directions is possible. And the way that you can think of for Kong Chai, he really did go as far as the universe to find his way back to his music. So that's a really beautiful projects that we have there. Anything to add? I think we are at the end of our presentation today.
So we had Ping Ping and Kong, right? That we haven't talked really. Oh wait, already talked about Ping Ping. So Kong, I think Kong's project is truly interdisciplinary. It's scientific, it's musical, artistic, research-based, and yeah, it's all it's like IT, not IT, but you know, AI really like developed. So
maybe it's a good point actually to end our sessions today is the idea of the virtual at the end, that he's actually now from the very first things that the student are wrapping all this piece about being in this institute and seeing the kind of, if any one of you have been in PGVIM, you might see all this kind of really high bridge that we have on the side of how we can dream as high as that. And now he's dreamed as far as the universe. So then thank you very much for all the presenters today, everyone, and first, second, and third, and fourth years, and also our graduates as well. So thank you for being with us. Thank you, Ajahn Thanisa, for posting a lot of good questions and also engaging, reflecting with us about the students' work. So thank you very much. And please stay tuned, because tonight we talk a lot already about what we've done for the past few years. Tonight you're going to see selections of student recitals, which we pocketed as something that we call recitals on the go. So you're going to be staying with us for many, like 10 students of their own projects, including Patharapon and also Nishanan as well. So please stay tuned and see more music. I promise there's going to be no more talking after 7 p.m. today. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you all, and then see you tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. สวัสดีค่ะ